my presentation show how far can go economists if our colleagues from Statistic office don't work their job. And the title of my presentation is Interregional Balance based on the rail transport data. What is the main statistic problem? The problem is that we in Russia have official input-output tables for period 2011-2015. It's very good input-output tables. We have tables, resources, and use and supply, satellite matrices, and so on. But efficiently, we have not, we have not regional input-output tables. We have enough information about interregional relations between Russian regions, and but we have regional data of system of national accounts. It's a plus. But minus is that Rosstat believes that it's impossible to develop and publish regional input-output tables. It's an official position of our statistic office, which was presented in a special article in our journal, Study on Russian Economic Development, by Deputy Director, Russian Statistic Office, Irina Masakova. But what the reason? The reason is that a large amount of technical works and the inability to identify the production of large corporations. But from this statistic problem go our model problems. We have the system of macroeconomic models on the macro structural models on the level of Russian Federation, federal districts, and regions. And we use so-called vertical level. It's methodology up to bottom. We produce our results from national level, federal district level, and regional level. But unfortunately, we have not enough information for horizontal level, for level of interregional interactions, interregional links. And in this slide you can see current system of our regional modeling. In top level we have two input-output models. The first one, Russian industry model, and the second one, contour model. The first one, Inforum type model, economic estimation for value added and final demand elements. In second model, based on balances calculations. Next level is level of federal districts. There are 8 federal districts in Russian Federation. We have evaluated by sectors in this level: sector output, employment, budget, incomes, and other parameters. After calculation on level of federal districts, we have next level. It's level of 82 Russian regions, and same parameters estimated for all regions. And what is main point of this system of models? The sum of GDP, sector output, and investment in top level, same with these parameters in level of federal districts and level of regions. And if we look at, for example, one federal district, that total sum of evaluated by sectors in regions, same as in federal district. The name of our regional model is normal. Why we use the method up to bottom in our regional calculations, in our regional modeling? Because correlation of GDP dynamics in Russia and GRP the dynamics in Russian regions, it's too high. You can see that for 80% of Russian regions, the correlation is in between 0.7 and 0.9 or 90% and 70-90%. Except some very specific region, such as Chukotka, it's far east on the border with United States. Of course, Magadan, it's far east too. Kamchatka, it's a crab region, fish region in far east. Yakutia, where is diamonds production highest, like in South Africa. And Tyumen, it's main oil region, and Moscow too. Fortunately, we have another source of statistic. It's a statistic of Russian railways. For many years we have very interesting and very useful project together with Russian railways. This project focused on the goods transportation forecast between regions for long-term prospect. And of course, Russian railways has very good base of database for transportation, different kind of goods. You can see the 16 main goods, coal, ferrometals, non-ferrometals, fertilizers, chemical products, cement, and so on, so on, so on. Of course, here there are, in this statistic, the main part of this statistic is intermediate products. And of course, we have idea to use this information, very good information, for construct new element of statistic for our models and for our forecast calculations. What is idea to use this information for regional modeling? In this slide, you can see our idea on the example of metallurgy. If we have change of metallurgy output in Russia, for example, from world market changes, we have a change in metallurgy output in federal district, because our metallurgy companies will be produce more or less metallurgy production. And of course, we have change in metallurgy output by regions. In this part, we have in our current model, because we go from up to bottom. And the second part, this one, is new one. Because if we change of metallurgy output by regions, we have a change of we change demand for example, for iron ore, air for coking coal. And of course, this new demand change structure of regional economies which have this production connected with metallurgy. And of course, in the end of this operation, we balance all production and gross regional product in all regions with the forecast on the federal level. And finally, we make this estimation not in physical units, but in prices and volume of production in national currency. You can see that we have in this table 20% of agriculture, mining and manufacturing output in Russia, and 60% of agricultural, mining and manufacturing output using intermediate consumption. So we have here the very important part of intermediate consumption, and very important that it's not without export and import, it's international transportation. Yes, internal transportation means 20% of agricultural, mining and manufacturing output and 60% in intermediate consumption. The next step, we can form a single transport matrix. If we have matrices region by goods, for example, coal, metal, fertilizers, and so on, and we have average prices for goods, we can to produce symmetric matrix region by region, 79 region by 79 region, with all products which we have in these matrices. And the next step, we use this information, this symmetric matrix, as an element of new balance very close to traditional Leontief model. But X in this case is output in real sector, not in full economy. It's a final demand in real sector, and C is a matrix of coefficients of interregional change of intermediate products. In this slide you can see this balance, but I use very simple form because here is not a full 79 regions, Russian region, but federal districts. First one, Central Federal District, Northwest, South, Volga Federal Districts, North Caucasus Federal District, Urals, Siberian, Far East Federal Districts, and the others. You can see value added here in this row, output of real sector and output in real sector in the column. Of course, output here and here is same. The matrix is symmetric. In this slide, I present you the result of our estimation, what is dependence of output by federal districts with the growth of final demand by 10%. You can see here the green color and red color. What is the result? The first one, the greatest impact on the development of regional output has, due to scale, the development of the Central Federal District, because the Central Federal District is the main region of Russia, macro region of Russia. The Far East Federal District and Siberian Federal District remain loosely linked to other regions of the country. You can see that all coefficients for Siberian Federal District and Far East Federal District are too low. And the last point is that the greatest dependence on domestic demand in the old industrial regions. What means old industrial regions? First of all, Volga region. You can see very high dependence on regional demand. Urals, where is a Russian old industry region, and Siberia, where is a very important industrial potential and it's old industrial region for Russia. And this slide you can see the most important interregional links in the consumption of intermediate production in 2070 between Russian regions. In this slide you can see first 20 regions by these coefficients. The first one, Khabarovsk to Primorsky Krai, it's Far East. Krasnoyarsk to Khabarovsk, it's Siberia to Far East. Irkutsk and Transbaikalia region too. And finally, you can see this. We have inverse matrix coefficient in this table and input coefficient too. And finally, my conclusions. Economic dynamics in Russia is forming the conditions of structural and regional imbalances, which is one of the significant restrictions of the growth in long and mid-term prospect. The formation of an effective economic policy requires a comprehensive analysis of the effectiveness of measures at the level, not only country or sector level, but region level too. The tools of intersectoral and interregional forecasting should take into account both the impact of macroeconomic dynamics on the regional level and interregional level of interactions. In current state of Statistic, the most qualitative information on the structure and interregional economic relations in Russia are in Statistic of database of Russian railways. Analysis of the system of interregional interaction at the level of federal districts show significant restriction to economic development associated with the high significance of the central federal district as formation of economic dynamics, and not enough using of economic potential old production regions such as Siberia and Far East. And finally, we need more help from our statistic colleagues, and I think we spent a lot of money for creation input-output tables and need quality and we need new regional input-output tables connecting with national input-output tables. Thank you.
Question?
Thank you for interesting report. Can you open this table with connections between regions? Yes, one. I just did not understand. Please explain. You said that Far East district has a small coefficient, but connection Far East and Siberian district, the coefficient is big one.
Yes.
0.6. What does it mean? And so
finally, it means that two macro regions, Siberian Federal District and Far East Federal District, is closely linked with another Russia. And of course, Far East Federal District have goods from Siberia, but not have enough goods from another parts of Russia. And finally, we have good coefficient between Far East and Siberian Federal District, but it means that two regions is too close, but finally it's not in whole economic system of our country.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very interesting. I was wondering if you have information about services, because you use information about coming from the railway data. But,
it was one of the questions in our work. We have some estimation what means interregional services connection. Unfortunately, in Russia, but fortunately for our work, unfortunately in Russia, the interregional relation by services is not so big, because we have budget financing from central to regions, and we have transportation. But transportation is, in our balance, we use information about transport, because transport is part of real sectors. We have information about construction, because construction goods use railways, and communication, of course, because communication is a part of real sector too. But of course, it's not all economy. It's only real sector. I understand the restriction of this method, but for Russian economy now, in this level of our economic development, it's one way to show how region relation in economic activity, different economic activity.
Alexander, thank you very much for very interesting presentation and work you do. But I have two questions for my curiosity, dear to my field. First of all, what is the is there any difference in official Russia output and the sum of the outputs in the regions? It is the first.
Yeah.
And the second, those coefficients C, is it direct information, or you use any estimation procedures?
From last question, of course, C is absolutely based on the current railways data and data of Russian Statistic Office about prices for goods. Yeah. But about the first question, I think that Excuse me, please repeat me.
Is there any difference between the official Russia output?
Yeah.
Yes, and by regions.
Yeah. Of course, we solved this problem in the first three levels, because all our input-output model and our regional model based on official statistics, of course, official statistic of GDP, national accounts, and regional statistic of national accounts. And these differences between GRP and GDP is included in our calculations on this level. Yeah.
Thank you, Sasha, for the presentation. Very nice. I think this is a very interesting topic, and I'm working in something similar for my country. I don't have the kind of data transportation, so we have to rely on allocation methods that are available in the literature. But I have some comment and question. The first one is when you say changing output, it might be changing volume or price, and there is a huge difference, because if you change the value, then it means that you demand the intermediate input to produce that output. But if you change it by the price, you don't demand more intermediate output. So I think in order to see when you are looking the impact in the region, it's good to mention if you are looking at the value change or the price change. And the second matter is related with this one, is the ownership of the capital. Because you produce value added, and this has happened a lot in my country, you produce a lot of value added in some regions, but the owners live in another one. So all the earnings move to other, and that goes creating a huge concentration of the wealth in some part of the territory, while others are getting poor and poor, even though they are producing a lot of value added. So this is the third issue that I think is help a lot to show with this kind of table. Look at concentration and territorial inequality. And when you push market policy competition across the country between regions that have different level of development, always the winning is the more developed, and the loser are the one that is already lagging. And my final suggestion is about the key coefficients that I think you should complement this with the levels of the transaction, because sometimes the key coefficient might be high, but if the level of transaction between two regions is low, then it's not something that is very important. Okay, so it's what I will suggest in that case is that you complement the key coefficient that you show with the level of the transaction that you are looking at.
Thank you very much. Very useful comments. One answer is here, because our statistic office means that, of course, we have big corporate in Russia, for example, Gazprom, Rosneft, Lukoil, and so on. And we not understand how gold value added in Russia, because, for example, oil companies produce oil and gas in Siberia, but main office of company in Moscow, and of course Moscow is a big exporter of oil and gas finally. Yes, but last Tuesday I finished one small text about future of Russian statistics for our journal, and there is my position that in current situation of digitalization and more source of information, the problem of holdings big companies is not so important, because all elements of expenditures clear, clear by financial structure, by fiscal system, and so on. And I think that in the future, maybe 5-10 years, this information will be open because it's not security data, because it's absolutely clear for government, for example, on security services.
Okay, I have to stop here the discussion on the census. And then I